Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to another edition of Stars, Stripes, and Anfield Nights. Thank you for joining us, even though the Argentina Canada game is on. Our dear friend Paul must be watching that game. Fingers crossed, Canada at least keeps it tight for him. But tonight we have Colin and CT. How are you guys doing tonight? Colin, we'll start with you.
Doing fantastic, as we were just kind of chatting about. News starting to slowly pick up, uh, rather than us, just like talking about our feelings here on a Tuesday night, which is it's fine. That's fine for me as well. Hanging out with friends, talking about feelings.
Yeah, definitely 100% supportive of that. And as you said, Colin, getting a little more busy. Probably will be for the next few weeks, as you were saying. CT, you're probably the chillest one here right now. Colin and I burning up in the North America. How you doing down there in Australia?
Yeah, I'm doing well, guys, and great to be with you in the chat talking about there's a bit happening. Before we came on, we're like, well, now we've got to get used to getting through a lot more topics, but which is good because more fan interaction, more questions in the chat, and more hot takes, more opinions. I look forward to it.
Definitely. And again, thank you everyone who's joining us. If you have any questions or any comments, please throw them in the chat. We really appreciate all your engagement, everyone who's watching each week. Thank you. And we'll start. Looks like Steven was rushing to watch the Argentina game as well because the title of the video just has new club question mark. We'll tackle that for the first topic, but it seems to be in the news of this has been in FSG's plans for a while, but adopting another club, establishing that in the FSG branch. Rumors are that it will be a standalone entity having no direct connection with Liverpool. We know that Man City and other clubs kind of have been skirting that line with Girona for Man City, but Liverpool seem to have a desire for the ownership for a club to maintain its independence and identity. They're looking for opportunities in South America, but right now the club that has come out is the League Two club in France, French club FC Bordeaux. Colin, have you seen any news about this, and what's your excitement level for FSG adding another club to the under the hierarchy?
Uh, I did see a little bit. I saw that Bordeaux sort of officially announced that they're in conversations as well for the acquisition. Um, both of those news stories coming out together signals to me from a business perspective that those, they're not like early in negotiations, that they're really figuring out and hashing out the details of what the buyout looks like and what the pricing structure and how they're going to pay it to them. Like they're working on real legitimate details rather than, oh, we're interested in maybe considering an offer to buy Bordeaux. You know, Bordeaux have said they're in talks to sell the majority stake to FSG. I think this is a phenomenal move from FSG's perspective. I'd said on a couple of streams when talking about FSG owning a multiple club earlier. I think it was like way at the beginning of the summer, even maybe before the season had ended, that I had expected them to look. I think the news story that came out was something that they're interested in South America, and my response to that was, well, I think that if they're interested in South America, then they're going to buy two clubs. Um, it just makes sense, like for the amount of money that they're going to be able to complete these purchases for. Um, like they're going to be able to buy two clubs. Um, I think it makes a lot of sense to have a club like a second tier French club. The other leagues that I had cited previously were like, like an Austrian club or something like a maybe a second division or low first division Portuguese club. Like these all make real sense, in terms of wanting something that you can grow and that you can scale into a really successful club, like you mentioned, Drew, on its own. Um, but I think, I mean, could you imagine, a better place to have your, extra club than Bordeaux. Like, oh darn, I have to go for some business meetings, and maybe I'll just stop at a chateau or two on the way. Oh darn. Pick up some casks of priceless wine. Like, it just seems like like, if you're a really rich person with goofy money, like, that seems like a great thing to buy, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I 100% agree. That sounds like business thinking at its finest in terms of the vacations and business meetings that you'll have there. But yeah, I'm excited as well, Colin. I think maybe some people might be thrown off by FSG putting more money into another club that isn't Liverpool. But as you said, depending on where they buy the club, and for a League Two French club, the amount of money would not, in my opinion, be anywhere significant enough to like derail like a Liverpool versus if they started their NFL team in America. That might get me a little more anxious and frustrated.
Right. It would be like, if FSG were like about to buy into um, their long rumored NBA franchise that they've been like desperately pining for a decade. Most they think that it would be in Las Vegas. That's in the order of billions. We're talking about billions needed in investment, rather than this is going to be in the I would guess in the low hundreds of millions, less than 300. I didn't see a figure in particular, but I can't imagine that. I mean, I see now that Jamie has put in the comments, Bordeaux have a new stadium since 2016. That's a really nice thing to be able to like just buy into that, rather than to buy into a club and then also have to put up the cash for a new stadium as well. Like, it seems like really, really good, really reasonable business.
Yeah. And Jay Muse, thank you for the comments as always. We'll answer your question about Spain and Holland, England later in the stream. But CT, the reports are saying that it would be independent of Liverpool, any additional club purchase. And do you think, are you excited about this at all, or is this just some kind of like side business that FSG are doing that it's like, oh, that's cool, but I'd rather hear more information about Liverpool? Do you think that's the case, or is it like maybe it's a potential future mining for talent or sending players on loan? Although League Two France doesn't seem like the best league. How do you view this acquisition by FSG if it does go through?
Yeah, certainly. I view it as a business move for them. I'm not as excited in terms of just pure football. Liverpool is our love and our attention, but it's got me curious, no doubt, in terms of, like you said, how is that going to impact us positively, potentially being able to loan players there to get good experience in a solid league, but also maybe get a better price for players that might develop with that club and maybe make their way to Liverpool. At some point, I think we've talked about it a lot, about this being a future model for a lot of big, clubs. Obviously the City Group, and we'll talk about that later. But yeah, with Liverpool and being Bordeaux specifically, the French league was bandied about in our chat about that being, a good idea. A lot of us are pro South America as well. I was kind of hoping that FSG, and maybe they might in the future, look at buying a South American club, or even in the MLS, closer to your neighborhoods, where we could get the doorway to South American talent as well. But yeah, I think we know why Michael Edwards came back. I think for his title, this is a big part of what his comeback was about. Yes, a lot of it had to do with Liverpool, but a lot of fans were only focusing on Edwards and Liverpool. But this was a big key in Edwards coming back, which is to be the CEO of football, in terms of the City Group, and overseeing clubs or more clubs in the future. So yeah, I'm a little bit lukewarm, but positively excited, but not ecstatic.
Yeah, I'm similar to you. I'd say the lukewarm's the feeling for me, and totally get where you're coming from. I'm part of me is excited just on the business side of like if they can kind of cheat and loan out some like 16-year-olds or 17-year-olds to like the League Two France, could be some interesting experience to kind of buff up their way through the promotion scale of France. It'd be interesting if they could get them to the league below Ligue 1. But I guess we'll wait and see if that develops and that finalizes and goes through.
You know what's
Um,
funny as well about the FSG? It's something that I feel like I have a very different perspective on them than a lot of our friends and sort of colleagues who appear on the channel, just because of their sort of distance from FSG, um, and their at some points contentious ownership of Liverpool. But FSG do own they now own my beloved Pittsburgh and hometown Pittsburgh Penguins, which they bought. What was that, 3 years ago now? 2 years ago? Around there. And they technically actually employ my father-in-law. Uh, he's been a cameraman for what was the local TV station, and has been for 25 years. Um, and when they bought the Penguins, there's like a real kind of toss up for like local sports media rights. And this is going, I'm sure Drew has heard a lot about this living in Los Angeles, but local sports and like media rights in the United States is really up in the air. And actually FSG bought the station that he has worked for forever. And so technically I mean, not even technically, like, they employ my father-in-law. So I'm happy that they're in a position enough to, where they're able to, and with comfort, purchase a club and feel as though that's a good business move. And I will be rooting for them regardless of whether or not we're gonna like just buy all their best players, or be able to send, whenever they go back to League One, like, hopefully they would be something that would, um, you know, we'd be able to actually send people on loan to, or to have like realistic, business with. But I'll be happy for their continued success. I think it's a good thing, I think, for Liverpool if it goes well.
Yeah, I'd certainly fall in line with that. I think the company thriving bodes well for Liverpool and investment, but I know that's probably half, maybe not even half, minority of fans' opinions. If like
Yeah.
money's not going towards Liverpool, that's not a good thing. CT, do you think this is like we talked about? You're saying you're feeling lukewarm about the acquisition. That could be a good thing for the business, etc. But um, we'll transition just to a side topic of transfers. Do you think this kind of news puts transfers or any money going into Liverpool on the back burner? How worried are you, or what's your nerve level on the lack of signings thus far this transfer window?
No, it's a great question, and the question that every single Liverpool fan should be asking. And I don't think it's going to affect transfers too much, to be honest. I think FSG will keep the money separate. They did, interestingly, I don't know if you guys saw, they poured cold water on an NBA franchise recently. So that that's positive in terms of they're keeping within their means. They're focused on the franchises that they currently have and making them stronger. With Liverpool, I think we're in a very healthy situation financially where it shouldn't affect transfers. If we do struggle buying, it's because probably we're more comfortable with our squad, or we're waiting for some sales, because there is some players like Kelleher. There is some pieces after Slot has cast his eye over which players might be out on loan, or which players might be surplus. We'll probably get some money coming in as well. But with Edwards, I think he's obviously he's very meticulous, and he'll be wanting to get the right guys, not just splash like Chelsea, like Man United, just find anything that sticks and throw it against the wall. It's it's very data driven, and I think we've talked about that recently. The story came out where it's going to be heavily geared towards guys that are thriving with the data, and that might be a younger player on the come up. It might be a player that's a little bit more unheralded in a different league, but someone who's going to fit Liverpool the better way, the right fit. But obviously Salah, Trent, and Verge need their deals as well. We're still waiting on that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm not as worried about it. And I'm curious. I think Slot has said in a couple interviews now, thankfully we're starting to see those more. But he said one of the side note, I wish they would stop mentioning Jurgen Klopp when asking him questions, because I can only imagine how annoyed he is. But he's handling it great. And one of the things he constantly says is, on Klopp leaving, he left a brilliant squad. So I'm sure he's watching the Euros and Copa America, but it's different than getting the players on in training and seeing what you need at that point. But Colin, as we transition towards the next topics of the stream on transfers, how are you feeling in general about the lack of transfer activity so far this window? Is Arsenal making on Calafiori and other clubs potentially lining up transfers? Man U's made a few bids. Is any of that worrying you, or are you comfortable with the lack of action at the moment from Liverpool?
Right now, I feel good. I feel good about the lack of really concrete connections. I think this, this behind the scenes staff likes to move in silence. I think that the people who were, and I'm certainly willing to listen to several theories as to who it may have been, but I think a lot of the leaking, especially in terms of how unhappy some people at the club might have been with lack of transfers. I think, to me, that's pretty clear on who maybe those bits of information may have been coming from, or from what circle those bits of information may have been coming from. I think this new group, this new regime, likes to move with no word in the public, and so I think it will be hard to tell going forward whether or not we're going to be happy with a lot of it until the window is shut and closed. I think, especially with the circumstances that I think, honestly, all clubs are dealing with right now, with the amount of international games going on, I genuinely don't expect anything to be getting done for another, concretely, for another 2 weeks, probably from now. A lot of the teams that are just getting knocked out, it's going to take 2 weeks for negotiations to happen and for stuff to materialize. So I'm not worried yet. I think if you ask me, at the end of the window is what, end of August, mid-end August, or is it early? Is it September? I can't remember the exact window close.
I don't know if they updated that. I thought it was mid-August, but I don't know if they've updated that with the other leagues yet.
I should know when that is. When we get to 7 days out from the window closing, if there's been no business done, I'll be worried. I'll start to be worried. And maybe I would feel differently if it was if there's business that they really try to do that just doesn't happen. At least you can kind of okay, well, some business things happen, or someone failed a medical, or whatever it might be. But if there's just this amount of quiet the whole time, I'm should we not have prepped a little better? Maybe should we not have had something ready to go?
Yeah, I think I'm leaning more towards that. Seeing Jay Muse's comment about people in the chat on the earlier stream today getting a little depressed about lack of activity. I think for me that I'm in your boat of I'm not worried yet, because I understand the tournaments going on this summer. It seems like this is the first time in a while where that's happened. combine that with a Slot, taking the job new. So it's not like he has known what he wants with the squad for the last couple seasons, or he needs to become acquainted with it, etc. I think for me, the worries come if we're hesitant to make a transfer. Like, for example, if we would have went in for Calafiori, I'm not sure if we would or we wouldn't, but if we were thinking about it, but we were waiting on Slot to get some players back or waiting for, tournaments to end, etc., see who comes back fit, etc. I think all that's necessary, but it kind of reminds me of how we pipped Tottenham to Luis Diaz once we saw them going. It's like, oh, you're interested in a player we like, we're going in. I'm wondering if teams like Arsenal are just jumping ahead of the gun and being like, what, we'll get our business done early, and let the chips fall where they may. I think that kind of gambling can pay off or it doesn't. But like you, Colin, I think if we're getting towards the start of the season / end of the window, not having at least brought in one or two people, I'd be a little worried. But on that CT.
Yeah, just quickly on that, I think one telling thing which it leads into all this was it's quite clear Liverpool communicated in different ways that Slot wanted to look at the squad first before making key decisions. Do you think that could be the main reason? Not money, not Euros, or tied into the Euros, I guess, but Slot wants to look at this squad. He wants to look at some guys and and figure out. And I'm sure they've got their targets lined up, and I'm sure they'll be ready to pounce. But it could be the fact that Slot wants to get to know these guys better. He's said it very well. He's spoken very well, and he says, my first order of business is meeting the players, getting to know them, and also talk ideas with them as well. But I like the fact that he said he spoke to Richard Hughes every day. He has daily dialogue. So that tells me that these guys have got their plans. They just will execute them when they're ready.
I totally agree with that, CT. I think too, if Slot didn't put in the time to get to know the players, then you can miss potential gems coming through the ranks. You just look at Yamal today for Spain, 16 years old, golazo to level the score and going on to win. You don't know who's in the academy or who's coming back from loan, etc., unless you look. But if you wrote anyone off based on without seeing them Slot, I think that he wouldn't be doing his job. But as he said, he's constant communication with Hughes, as he said in the interview, and I trust the process. Fingers crossed they don't make us too nervous. But we'll transition into actual potential targets. We'll see if they're BS or if it's just the rumor mill. But before we do, if you're enjoying the stream, please like and subscribe. Our big boss, Steven, always gets on us to say that at least once or twice throughout the stream. But we really do appreciate everyone who tunes in, watches the stream each week, and gets in the comments. So thank you, everyone who's joining us now. And if you have any questions or any comments, please throw them in the chat, and we'll be happy to bring them up and answer them. And now we'll move on to individual names that have come up into the news lately. A big one that's been put up, although I saw that potentially Manchester United were interested, but Adeyemi, Borussia Dortmund's Karim Adeyemi has come up on the list for potential Liverpool transfers. He's a winger. He plays for Dortmund, German international. He seems to have fallen off a bit after his stint at RB Salzburg. Hasn't quite hit the ground running for Dortmund, but at that age, he kind of falls into pace, winger with pace, something Slot likes. 22 years old, kind of falls into that FSG model. Colin, is that someone you'd be excited to bring into the club? Do you think he's ready for that jump to Liverpool, or do you think this is someone we should stay away from?
I'm not fully sold on this player. I watched quite a bit of Dortmund. One of the teams that I really follow in not international, but internationally outside the United States. Definitely one of the teams that I follow most closely. Um, I I was not like mega impressed. Um, I don't. I think that there are better options for probably especially how really really hard to deal with. I guess that Dortmund have been in terms of like getting business done with them, um, and not even just from us. It is including us, but kind of across the board. They've been really difficult to deal with, and for what I would guess that they would ask for, it's not what I would first pick. It's not who would be near the highest top of my list. But I really do have a belief in it, in Michael Edwards and his kind of ethos around picking players and deciding on transfers. So if that's what if he's saying that's the guy, then okay, I'm gonna shut up and wait and see what's gonna happen. But it's not the one that I would have initially selected as that's my winger, that's my guy.
Yeah, that's fair though. As his stats haven't really impressed since he joined Dortmund, but £25 million is the rumor for what we could get him at. Does that sway your mind any differently, Colin? Real quick.
It's pretty cheap. That's pretty cheap. That seems more like Dortmund is trying to offload him, though, rather than they're saying, "Hey, someone come get him, 25 million. We'll still make money," rather than like, really putting up a fight about, "Oh, we really don't want to lose him." It's not a ton of money.
CT, how do you feel like a transfer potential like Adeyemi? Is this someone's with raw talent at 22 that's worth the punt at £25 million potentially? Do you think that's in the mold of deserving a chance, giving a chance at Liverpool to develop, or do you think at right now that's not who we should be looking at?
Yeah, I think for the fee, like we back our guys, our scouting. Clearly, there's an appeal. If this link is legit, I'm more patient in terms of like we got Mo Salah, the best in the business. We're stacked at the forwards. I look at this guy like he's 22, and maybe they look at him as more of an understudy, and they're not looking to him to come in and set the world on fire immediately. But if they do see potential long term, he could learn. I'm not sure if he's right-sided or left or number 9, but he's a winger, so yeah, he's left or right. And Mo Salah's here; he's not going anywhere. They've clarified that they're not going to be selling any of those major guys, which is great for us. And I think they will back their scouting and development slot. His best trait could be unlocking young players, to become stars with us. And, and that's exciting. The fact that he's heralded for, working with younger guys. We have all the young talent in the world, and we're about to talk about one of the star boy steals. But with this guy, it's a little underwhelming, but if it's 25 million, I think there's not much of a risk because it's a pretty decent fee. They clearly see something in him, and Dortmund is a pretty big club, so I trust what they're doing.
Yeah, I agree with that. Same with what Colin said about Edwards or Hughes doing the investigating here. Because I always think of just look at Salah or look at De Bruyne. I know they didn't do their first stints. Chelsea looked like they were awful players, or maybe quotes. At least Chelsea thought so before unloading them, and then come back and two of the best players in the Premier League the past decade at least. I'm always curious for some research and believing in a player if they have the right tools. I'm certain that's what we're giving Nunez going forward, and if a player with the right skill set is able to get the support they need, and as you said, Arne Slot, in his interviews, he was talking about losing players, like 10 players a year with Feyenoord each season, having to adapt to that. If he gets to build his own team moving forward, it could be very exciting with the right ingredients. But as you said, though, CT, we have the Starboy Steel in the title of the video, and that Starboy is Rio. Apologies if I butchered the pronunciation of this last name. If anyone wants to jump in and save me, CT or Colin, please do. But Rio Nagomaha, potentially we're pipping him from Chelsea's academy, and we're all the buzz around it is like we're ready to break our wage structure at the academy to bring this player in. And for me, that's the flag that this kid is unreal, that breaking wage structure is not something FSG does lightly. So it definitely quirked my eyebrow when I read that. CT, we'll go back to you since you introduced the Starboy Steel. Do you know anything about Rio? I'm not going to butcher his last name again for his sake, but do you know anything about this Chelsea youngster? Are you excited?
Very, very. I've dived into some highlights after the link came out, so I'm not going to say that I knew of Rio Ngumaha. I think it is Ngumaha. But exciting to know that we are attractive for him at that age, and he's seeing the results play out. Reports say that the Carabao Cup final might have been a tipping point, seeing the Liverpool Starboy kids win a cup. Meanwhile, he's buried underneath the rubbles of Chelsea Football Club, right? If he starts to, get into the first team over the next year or two, I think it's going to get a lot more attention. But for right now, it's simmering. Where this kid has everything ahead of him. Obviously, he is still a kid, so we got to temper those expectations. We're going to see him play senior football first, but he's a young kid still growing into his body, growing as a man. But it's exciting to see some of the highlights. There's already comparisons that his game could look like an Mbappe. From what I see, he's an excellent ball striker. I mean, he had some cracking goals from outside the box. At 15, it looks like he's got a lot of power. And what's there not to love? He chose us. He promoted this move, or as far as I know, we didn't just go out of our way to try to pluck a kid. He identified us, so that's good.
Yeah, it's definitely exciting. I'm kind of delving into the research on this player now, and it kind of, to me, honestly, the only other player I got really excited about in the academy was Raheem Sterling. Like I think he scored like 5 goals in the FA Youth Cup final when he was like 15 years old, and that just seeing the way he played I was like, this kid's gonna make it, and he's gonna be a hell of a player for us. Turned out to be true for a short amount of time, but as you said, CT, like everything you're talking about the player, everything's just pointing to good vibes, and definitely has the potential to at least see him on the pitch for us next year in competitions like the League Cup, because it does seem like Slot is interested in progressing youth talent. He said if they're good enough, they'll get the chance. Colin, how do you feel about this this potential transfer going through? It's not a big name, but it could be a big name in the future. Do you agree with that? How do you feel?
I love this story. I love this link. I would love for this to get done, but not just because that I would want this kid to be, the next best thing to come out of the academy. I certainly do. And I think off of some YouTube and Twitter compilations, I think, clearly he has the stuff to be able to do that. But I think what is the best part about this story and the best part about this link is what it says about our decision to structure the club in the way that we do, and our decision to play kids in competitions like this, or to be brave and to be bold and like believe in what you are teaching them in the academy, and believe so deeply in what you're able to offer kids in terms of their academy experience. There was a lot of press and conferences and a lot of media done about our academy around that Carabao Cup final. I watched a lot of it. Someone had an interview with Alex Inglethorpe, I think, um, about really like what the idea is behind the youth structure for the club, and to see how they really deeply foundationally believe that having and giving them opportunities, but also insisting on them working hard, and not being interested in anybody who is there to get a check at 15, or there to wear fancy like flashy expensive jewelry at 15 years old. Like, those kids still like they have jobs that they have to do. There's responsibilities that they have to do, put on them from the club and from the academy. And if this kid wants that because of what it offers, he will not be the last one of these type of kids to make that decision. I think it's like fundamentally, foundationally important for Liverpool to continue this sort of idea around the academy.
Yeah, 100%. And then seeing like chances like Connor Bradley get into the squad, have that moment, like that stretch a month, and then that moment against Chelsea, probably another one. As you said, CT, watching the League Cup final, there's probably a few moments where Liverpool youngsters showed their game at top of opposition, or at least in top matches. Yeah, definitely exciting. And yeah, well, I guess we'll see. Hopefully that's not the only transfer, but it's an exciting one regardless.
Very Sepp Vandenberg coded. If it's the only transfer, that's like very, hey, we won the league. Hey, we have this 17-year-old. Congratulations.
And I'm all for ways to circumvent paying these exorbitant fees. That's why this new club intrigues me a little. But you guys know I was high on Archie Gray, and I thought, look, Liverpool could have pounced. They could have easily got in, but his family was a Celtic family, and they gravitated towards Ange, and he went to Tottenham. But if this guy Rio turns into a better player, or the next big thing, and he's already with us, that's another way to not pay a huge fee. End up getting these guys, and him, and as Jay Muse said, all these guys, Trey Nioni, Dans, Kumas, Bobby Clark got a new deal as well. Congrats to him, or if he hasn't, he's going to get a new deal, from what I heard. So the future is so bright, and I almost want to just save those kids for the cup, and maybe rest the veterans.
Yeah, it's like, as you said, CT, like saving the transfer fee. If you look at like arguably probably the most expensive right back right now is Trent in the world. If the right back was to be transferred right now, I can't think of anyone who would go above him. And then if you think in terms of like goalkeeper, backup goalkeeper, Kelleher, like the fee that he'd command, as you said, like players are getting their moments to shine and can save us big transfer fees for spots opening up, or Harvey Elliott. So many examples in the squad. So definitely agree with you. And I back Edwards to get the balance right for sure. But we'll wrap up to have some a little more casual but fun chat for the rest of the stream, the rest of the 20 minutes. The final bit of the stream is about the LFC boys face off, and I believe that is meant to be England versus the Netherlands tomorrow. So we can chat about the Copa America and the Euros, what's remaining left of them. Sorry, Paul, for Copa America, but unless Canada has the miraculous turnaround, Alexis McAllister in the final. Anyone who has any comments or thoughts, definitely get them in the chat. This will be a little bit more lax for the last 20 minutes, so feel free to chime in with your predictions and anything you have to say. We appreciate. Jamie has asked this question earlier in the chat, so we'll start with this. Drew Collins CT, opinion, Spain deserved the final, England or Holland tomorrow? Colin, who are you backing for that?
I think Holland are a little more interesting. I think England are probably a little better. And in a really like disgustingly boring way, you know. I was not strangely, I was very, very excited for Trent to be put on fifth penalty and for him to take it in that way. I thought that the England penalty takers were like unbelievable. And I think that if they roll out that 5 again, I would back every single one of those 5 to score all of them again. The unfortunate part of me saying that is I think that there's a like decent plus chance that, you know, Gareth Southgate is really like trying to get to penalties because he feels so confident in them. I certainly felt like that at times in that match against Switzerland, which was, you know, again, at times a disgusting watch. Holland are not maybe as consistently good. I think if they had what would be their 2 starting midfielders, I think they would be unbelievable. I think they do offer a real threat. And they've been, for 2 tournaments now, they've been a real fun watch. Even when they're like bad, they're still kind of fun. And yeah, there's a little. I'm maybe leaning towards Holland to get one in extra time or something like that, and to pip England to it.
Yeah, I'm actually curious. I think England potentially might give Spain more problems just because they probably lock it down. Whereas I think Netherlands have more free flow playing. Not that it's been great, but I certainly hope Netherlands win. I want England to get knocked out because it's been funny enough, like the days that they're playing line up when I'm able to catch games, like I'll have off work, etc. And it's been the most boring games to watch. And I think just Southgate deserves that moment of just like realizing that he's not good enough for the job, because that's what it seems to me.
I'm honestly very happy that a couple of the Liverpool players like are not touching the field. And I don't mean just for England, like Ryan Gravenberch, like I'm good with that. Like you know what I don't need? I don't need an Ibu Konate injury. So I'm good. He's been able to train and like, you know, spend time with the national team, but also doesn't have to play and risk getting. I'm good. I'm good with that. I don't need, you know, you're not going to play Trent and Joe. That's fine. Put them on the bench. I'm also happy, you know.
CT, how are you feeling? Do you think Colin and I are being a little bit harsh on England, or where do you sit on the fence for Holland, England tomorrow?
Well, yeah, if you guys might recall my predictions, I'm Holland all the way at the start of the tournament. They're just the team that I followed as a kid growing up. So before Australia were making World Cups regularly, you know, there was a 32-year gap before 2006 when Australia made a World Cup. I was following Holland as my team with Patrick Kluivert, Dennis Bergkamp, and the like. And so I think England seem to have the luck, though, on their side So if they can get through, and I think it could happen where they, keep it tight, 0-0, 80-minute, Bellingham bobs up again, or Trent. When you got luck in a tournament, it just seems to keep rolling. And Holland have been very unlucky in tournaments over the years. The talent has always been there. And Koeman, he's not the best coach, as people have pointed out. So I think it's going to be tight. I think, though, Holland really should be looking at this opportunity. Like, we can't let this slip. They're the better team. I think they're in better form, but sometimes all you need is a stroke of luck. So here we are. I feel like England's been super lucky to get to where they are. Southgate does deserve all the criticism that he's been getting. England, at the very least, should be playing more attractive football, but we know results rule. And if you can advance in a tournament, you'll probably keep the job. But I wanted France, Holland. That was my call. But as Jamie said, yes, Spain have just been playing amazing. Lamine Yamal is a future superstar at 16. And I would love to see a Holland-Spain final.
Yeah, I agree with DCT. At least it'd be more interesting than England, Spain, I think, on a football sense. But as you said, like, I agree. Like, the luck thing is getting to me now, where it's like, even if they play poorly, like watching Switzerland body them for like 75 minutes, and then all of a sudden England shows up and they get Saka pulls them a lifeline, and it's like, oh, they're back in it. But then they draw back again. Like when Shaqiri's like hit that corner that hit the crossbar, it's like, you deserved for that to go in and knock England out. But as you said, the luck, I think if they just show up, they have the players where if they throw down, I can see them sweeping aside the Netherlands and winning a final against Spain, because they have arguably the best players in three of the top leagues. Top players all across the board. I don't know how it's been this ugly, but I don't know.
The realization that, and you touched on it, CT, about like the realization that international coaches can play a very negative, very defensive style of football, as especially as nations that like have talent to play like good looking, interesting, attacking football, and they won't, but out of self-preservation, is like, it's spine tingling to me. I hate everything about it. It drives me nuts.
When the football purists, I don't know if you saw Bielsa's press conference or quotes recently. He was basically pleading in a way.
He's one of the GOATs for a reason. Someone who's just like deeply entrenched in their belief that like football is to be played, not only to be won 1-0 or 0-0 on penalties. That football is to be played. I can't stand the big nations who decide. The fact that France and England were terrible watches all tournament is like deeply offensive in a footballing sense. I understand when a team like Turkey does it, or a team like Georgia. Like, how do you think Georgia's going to play? Like, they're going to defend for their lives and hope that they pip one. And frankly, they've got a guy who like is pretty unbelievable at doing it. So like, sure, like that makes sense for the group that they have. You can defend as a team. It's about like collective work rate. It makes sense to like sit down with France's talent and be like, what we're going to do is we're going to play like a boring, like low to mid block, and then just like see if we can catch a couple off of our three guys just like running at people is disgusting. It's a horrible football.
It reminds me of like when England and France played like the toothpick kind of war, like when you're balancing and fighting someone
Yes.
with a toothpick, and like England is just like sitting there, just like waiting for the other guy to slip, and the other guy's like jabbing him, and then at the end, the other guy slips, and England just pushes them off. But it's just as you said, C2, Bielsa's comments, like, football being a game of the people, and, entertainment is just, uh, football has been there as a source of free entertainment. It's not as entertaining when you're watching England or France play, especially in this Euros. So, yeah, Holland, Spain final would definitely, I think, be deserved in terms of the spirit of the game, even though, as you said, CT Coman isn't, or as people have said, and you pointed out, CT Coman isn't the best coach, but at least seeing some exciting football from them in this tournament. But there is another tournament that has been very exciting, whether that's been ridiculous challenges, offsides lines drawn at perpendicular angles, or however that's gone. But all right, red cards, yellow cards, the mix, certainly giving Copa America a taste of football on the western half of the world. CT, who do you think will win between Colombia and Uruguay tomorrow? Got a couple of our boys lining up. Who are you rooting for?
Again, it's a tough call. I'm going to go Uruguay. I think this could be their time. Darwin, Valverde, got a little bit of luck as well. But yeah, man, like you said, Drew, it's been a bumpy ride to get to where we are with the Copa. That game between Uruguay and Brazil was like, I think it was Rigo, shout out to him, that put in our chat. It's like a fight in a phone booth. Like
it was a different type of terrible watch. Like it was also horrible, but in a different, more UFC cage fight sort of way.
Remember the game Argentina when McAllister had the assist where he got like taken out like right before Alvarez. I was like, oh my god! But that's been, and then the U.S. games just getting absolutely mauled.
I hope the world is ready for a World Cup that looks like this. Horrible fields. They're going to lay that turf down 3 days before they're supposed to play on it. There's going to be people sliding all over. I saw a picture from the game tonight. They're playing, Canada, Argentina is playing at MetLife Stadium, where they're playing the World Cup final. You can see the seams. They like bump up between the turf, like the sod. If everyone's not ready for a CONCACAF U.S. late stage capitalism hosted World Cup, I hope you've watched this Copa America, because ooh boy, is it going to hit. Oh man, it's going to be terrible, disgusting, off. There, you see all these great videos of the Netherlands fans like jumping around in the streets, and there's like culture and whatever. How do you like? The Netherlands fans are going to walk to stadiums in the United States? There's nowhere to walk. You have to drive on a highway and park in a parking lot. There's nowhere for you to do that.
They'll find a way, Colin. I think more than anything, America's just going to be culture shocked by the world and be like, what is this?
Can you imagine the Netherlands fans like rocking down I-95 in Jersey, like headed towards MetLife Stadium? Oh my God, it's going to be a disgusting, beautiful train wreck. I can't wait.
On CT, someone who's lived in America for a brief time, are you proud of by proxy of this Copa America tournament? / do you have high hopes for the World Cup?
Hey, they're trying to incorporate the NFL a little bit more. The stadiums, the hip checks, Vinny J. I was one game, I can't remember which game it was. He literally just was body checked in the box, and the ref was just like, play on. Yeah. So we're going to get a spicy World Cup. Maybe it'll inspire a new generation of physical ballers. But either way, there's been spectacular goals, so at least we get a little bit of that. who had the record for the most cards? I know Turkey in the Euros. It was Turkey and Slovenia had like a record amount as well. But I know you guys have also criticized the coverage. You know, you've got cards up on the screen, but you don't know when they came, who is on it.
Oh, it's a joke. FS1. I didn't even know they still hosted soccer football match. When I saw they were doing, I was like, really? I remember when I was 2010 watching your channel, like as a high school student.
It's horrendous. It's a really like awful, horrible product to watch. Like, why do you have cards up there? Also, it doesn't like represent the amount of cards that there actually are. You're not gonna like put 15 cards up for each team. Like, what? Why? Like, there's not a card limit. It's not. Can you imagine what was happening in the pre-production meetings? They're like, yeah, we're gonna like. There's one soccer fan, I guarantee you, in that room who's like, that doesn't make any sense, and they're like, shut up, Jared. Like, we don't care what you think. We're putting cards up, and he's like, okay, sorry, and you know, lo and behold, it's a moronic idea. It's absolutely ridiculous.
That being said, anyone who's up and able, who's only been watching Euros, Colombia, Uruguay tomorrow should be a hell of a match. So if you're able to tune in for that, I'm trying to think what time it'd be UK time. It'd probably be 1 a.m, I think. Yeah, 1 a.m. So if you can stay up and I don't know what you call playing hooky, pull a sick day for the next day, it might be worth it because it seems like it'd be a pretty epic match. But as we're wrapping up, I'll have one more question that I've saved from the chat. But before I pass that question to Colin and CT, just want to say thank you again to everyone who's joined us tonight. Really appreciate everyone who watches the stream. Colin, CT, and I are pretty regular here, and we really do appreciate everyone who tunes in, who comments. If you do like what we're doing, please like and subscribe. It helps the channel. LFC Transfer Window puts out videos every day. It's a good channel, and we do value all the people who watch it and contribute. So thank you again. And as we wrap up the stream, I thought Paul asked a very good question. Maybe to gear it towards the future for Liverpool, but to get final thoughts on this. Let's start with UCT. Paul said, I think we dodged a bullet by getting Slot instead of Xabi Alonso. I'll frame the question with that as how happy are you with Slot seeing early doors? I know it's just interviews, a few training videos as we were talking before the stream started, but early doors, how are you feeling about Slot? And is there any Xabi Alonso heartache left?
Look, this could be Paul's best take, you know, because it's working out. You know, everything I've seen has been impressive. Excellent communicator. But if I could do it all again, I would probably still go Xabi, just because, I mean, what he did was remarkable. But I'm so happy with Slot. He would be by far my clear second choice still. Can't wait to see him work with the young kids. We've seen some creative things in training. You guys let me know, you know. I don't know if we're taking it to the streets, but we're doing some physical combat, some shooting, not of the goal scoring shooting. But look, I think the players are really going to play hard for him and really relate, because I think above all else, this appointment was about fit. I think he fit Edwards, and that could see FSG could see that he fits LFC really well. You know, perfect Klopp replacement. Let's see how it all works out on the pitch. Excited to see him go at that reporter from various outlets about formation, and you know, whether we're 4-2-3-1, 4-2-1-3, 4-3-3, and just the combination of situations. You know, we don't play a certain way, but it's situational. So that's good to see. But yeah, happy with our man. I've moved past Xabi. My heart is healed. It's healed up, and hopefully he's not so successful where he's at. Hopefully, Slot is more successful.
Yeah, our sentiments are similar. I think Slot has shown thus far his capable hands, and I'm excited to see the mixed martial arts in training. Definitely interesting to see new training videos for the first time in like 8 years. Yeah, it's for me. I thought anyone who took the job after Klopp like had to be confident in their abilities, and he seems, as you said, well spoken, capable guy. Definitely giving good vibes on seeming like he's up for the job. And I think for me, I think I said it earlier on the stream or maybe before the stream to you guys, but like the amount of questions he's getting that are related to Klopp, I'm infuriating watching it. Like, is this journalism? Just relate everything back to Klopp. Like, how do you think Klopp or what? He's been handling that amazingly, and I'm excited to see the conversation finally shift to him because I know Klopp would want him to be in the spotlight in a good way and not have to deal with Jurgen's legacy. But Colin, how are you feeling early days with Slot in charge? Are you enjoying the mixed martial arts training, the Redmen TV put down for the formations question, and Simicas's Wild West Instagram photos?
Yeah, honestly, sick burn on Chris Pajak from Redman TV. I would be sure he's not watching currently, but like, and I quite like them at Redman TV as well. Not as much as I like the Info Rap guys, but honestly, like very funny interaction, like already. So I think that we're in for some good laughs intermittently, in which Jurgen was very good for as well. Drew, I wonder because I feel very similarly to you as well about the like every time someone asks a question that like names Jurgen, I'm like, ooh, I just like I wince. I'm like, no, bad journalism, terrible. It drives me nuts. But I unfortunately think we're in for like a long period of where that's going to pop up. I wonder at what point do we think that someone's going to like actually go off at because it will happen. Someone will go off at a reporter about like asking questions about Jurgen. I don't know if it's going to be a player or if it'll be Arne Slot individually, but like someone will go off at a reporter because of it.
I think that will only happen if Slot doesn't get off to a steamrolling start. I think if he gets off to a steamrolling start, there's going to be a lot fewer questions about Klopp.
Yeah.
But I think if it's struggling a bit to get the ball rolling, if it takes some time to get things together, I think that's when the Klopp questions continue to roll through. And I could see, as you said, totally agree. That's the situation where I see like a Virgil van Dijk stepping up in a chat.
So definitely, yeah. That's a great point. Like someone will have to put their foot down at some point. And I am actually not looking forward to that day. Like I hate those kinds of interactions. They drive me nuts because like what it's just not like not becoming of whoever is asking the question. Like I get it, you're doing for clicks, but like to me that's like cheap and horrible, and I hate it. Terrible. But more generally to your question, I think the training, like the differences that in the training, like are really great. I'm really interested in. I've mentioned on the stream before. I do quite a bit of coaching. I coach different sports as well, so I'm very interested in seeing how different managers like go about setting up trainings and how they're doing warm ups. And we're doing a ton of like explosivity movements already. Like we've seen a ton of it. We're doing a lot of like quick twitch, which is just a little different than what we've been doing before. We're not doing the lactate test. We're doing the 6 minute, like measured runs. Like how far can you run in 6 minutes? Which is like similar to what my like high school my high school coach like we did 12. It was 12, and it was like you have to go with your grade, and you all have to go together as far as you possibly can. And if one person's behind, that's a very similar idea. But I'm very interested, and I'm hoping it's going well. I'm very excited as well to see that happen in Pittsburgh, and to be there in the stadium early and late to see who's doing extra running, what kind of running, all that kind of stuff. I'm very interested.
100%. Definitely looking forward to that. I'll be in Charlotte for that game. So, but we'll wrap up the stream now. Thank you, everyone who has joined. Again, just really appreciate everyone who watched, who chimed in the comments. Hope you enjoyed the stream tonight. We'll see if Uruguay or Colombia get through tomorrow, and same with England and Netherlands, but it looks like there will be a Liverpool player in each final at the very least. So hopefully someone from the Reds brings it home in both tournaments, but we'll know by next Tuesday. So until then, everyone have a great week. Hope you get to watch some games and hope for more good news.